We're here today for the beef market update on RealAgriculture.com. We're with Ann Dunford. Welcome today, Ann.
Hi, Sean.
Okay, Ann, let's talk about the fat cattle market right now. Currently, where are we at?
Well, let's talk about the U.S. first of all. We've got some very good markets going on. Here we are into May, and today Nebraska price is getting right back up to 101, and there's no question now challenging the highs we had a month ago. So U.S. markets have been solid for over a month now. They're current. What we're hearing in Nebraska is, of course, the calves aren't coming yet. They're saying not till June. Remember the tough winter we saw through the U.S., especially in that Corn Belt region, and the calves went on feed later, so you can only hurry these calves up so much. So that's the storyline down there. They're going through cattle, they're aggressively selling cattle because they're very profitable, but there's only so many you can pull forward that fast. So today, this week, $1 to $1.01, depending on where you are in the U.S., and anywhere from 160 to 162 dressed. Spin that back to the Canadian situation. We saw prices here today better than what we were the last 2 weeks in Alberta and Saskatchewan. So back up into the mid-50s dressed again, back up on top of 90 cents live. And again, these cattle are profitable, so guess what people have been doing? They've been selling aggressively. But what's the key word this week or last week in the southern part of this province? It's mud.
Yeah. So how big of an impact is the mud having on the feed yards?
It's having a huge impact, Sean. And you know, we came through the winter of 09, 10 in southern Alberta with a pretty good feeding winter. Things were good, gains were great, and the conditions were superb, contrary to what was happening in the U.S. Wow, it looks like we've had to pay for it all in the last 3 weeks. And you know, to say cattle stood still, I think would be a positive. I think cattle, in a lot of cases, in the worst hit areas, have actually gone backwards. So now we're in a situation where we were current coming into this because the prices were good, and now we've been hit with a loss of gain, and producers are going to have to just stop, give these cattle some time to come back. And guess what that means for the front end marketing? They're going to tighten up drastically.
So a lot of producers right now are talking about the kill. What has the kill been like as of late?
Well, I think there's two different things. Frustrating on how the record has been in regards to lifting cattle after they've been sold. So that's been frustratingly slow, 3-4 weeks in cases. And then we've kind of been our own worst enemy. We sell aggressively into this because cattle are making money, and we just add fuel to the fire. On the flip side, though, now with what I've just described with this mud situation, still a very strong U.S. market. I think this panic or this aggressive sell mentality maybe will slow down a little bit. We're going to have to take some time and put weight back on these cattle. And in the short run, that's going to clean up the front end show list a little bit. Some cattle have gone south in the last 2 to 3 weeks, and that's helped take some of the pressure off. And guess what? You know why there's more cattle here? We kept them here last fall and this past first quarter. So the feeder cattle have stayed in southern Alberta. That's a good news story. The feedlots were full, but guess what? On the flip side, we've got to kill them. What's our kill doing? Steer kill in Canada is up 1%, heifer kill's up 5%. 2 weeks ago, we had the biggest kill in Canada since June of 2006. So you can't say packers aren't killing cattle. We had more cattle here.
So as we talked about before, if they're killing, that means meat's moving. Yeah, we're headed into Memorial Day, big time barbecue season. It's kind of the launch. Are we expecting a lot of meat to move?
Well, look at the cutout. The cutout has run up in the U.S. to 170, 172 in that range over the last 6 weeks almost. We've had good solid prices. It does look like it's hit a ceiling, but that's the strongest cutout we've seen in a year and a half. So having said that, I don't think you can stand back and say beef isn't moving. Middle meats have struggled, trim and end meats have been extremely good movers. So do those things slow down as we go into the summer? Yeah, they always do, but I think we can't be at all disappointed about beef demand here this spring of 2010.
So as we're heading into the summer, we've talked a little bit about meat movement, but what kind of summer can we expect as of right now as we look into the summer? What kind of summer can we expect for feed yards?
You know, Sean, 2 weeks ago, I think I would have had a different answer than I have today.
That's why we talk every 2 weeks.
I guess so. But the bottom line is, I think with what's happened in the yard, with the reality of what's gone on with gains in the yard and with the condition of the cattle and how aggressively we sold into it, and the Americans as well, now we're coming into June a whole bunch more current than we thought. Do not forget, though, that packers have built more inventory around them in terms of forward contracts, and this is not just a Canadian thing, this is a U.S. thing as well. More forward contracts, there's been more grid arrangements, those kinds of things. And you know the answer, Sean, to that is we've seen so much volatility in this marketplace. The producers are looking for ways to minimize that risk of volatility. So guess what that leads producers and sellers to be doing in both countries? taking advantage of those opportunities and pricing cattle. So again, is it good? Is it bad? I don't think there's a right answer, but at the same time, that's the results.
So there is some fallout from more producers taking advantage of those risk mitigation tools. The message, though, continues to be get on the bus to manage some risk, especially as we see some volatility, like say we saw last week with the Canadian dollar.
Oh, if you lived through last Thursday, there's no question that you can't chase a market like we saw on Thursday in regards to the Canadian dollar. You have to have orders in, you have to have a game plan, and you have to have that in place long before these actions happen. So if that wasn't a classic example of what needs to occur, I think going forward, and I'm not suggesting on 100% of somebody's inventory, but we sure need to be looking at it on a percentage of our inventory.
Okay, Ann, thank you very much.
Okay, you're very welcome, Sean.
If anybody wants more information on Ann or Gateway Livestock Exchange, you can go to gatewaylivestockexchange.com.